What could have been a thoughtful exploration of society's penchant for insisting that only marriage and children lead to true happiness and fulfillment ends up being a funny but ultimately disappointing ode to the status quo. Four Christmases got a lot of hate from critics of the time, and I don't exactly get why. It is what it is, right? When you see that Vince Vaughn is in a movie, you should know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get Vince Vaughn being the same character that he always is in every movie. From Swingers to Wedding Crashers to Four Christmases, he is who he is. And that's great. That's fine. I like him. In broad strokes, the movie is about his character Brad and Reese Witherspoon's character Kate. They're going on vacation to Fiji for Christmas. They've been a couple but not married for 3 years, and they're very happy together from all appearances. And they're very much both on the same page as far as not wanting to get married and not wanting kids. And they don't like spending time with their families during the holidays because they're both children of divorce, and they absolutely hate the drama that comes with that, especially around the holidays. So every year they make up grandiose excuses about, why they can't be around for Christmas. Like they're inoculating babies in Burma or stuff like that. It's really outrageous, very ridiculous. You don't really believe anyone believes these excuses, but it makes them happy. So they get to go to romantic places together for Christmas. And this year, they're going to go to Fiji. But they live in San Francisco. And, well, wouldn't you know it, the movie's premise is that all the flights get fogged in. Nothing is moving, nothing going in or out. So they're stuck. And unfortunately for them, there happens to be a local news reporter there doing a kind of a man on the street interview kind of thing. And who do you think? Who do you think the reporter picks to interview about being stuck at the airport? Which, of course, means that their families see them on the news and know they are still in town. And so they end up biting the bullet and spending Christmas Day with each of their four different family groups. This movie is fine. Yes, the four stories are basically just four little comic vignettes where hilarity will ensue in one form or another, but I think they're all pretty well done. I think the short runtime for this movie added to the appeal for me. I've decided that 90 minutes is absolutely the perfect runtime for a movie like this. It allows you to spend time with the characters, but not so much time that it feels like there's a lot of padding in the story, like they're just trying to fill it out, which meant that for me, the pacing felt spot on. And I was surprised. There are a lot of big names in this film. I mean, you've got Robert Duvall. He's Brad's father. You've got Mary Steenburgen as Kate's mother, Marilyn. Dwight Yoakam shows up as a pastor, Pastor Phil, who's also Marilyn's boyfriend, as well as her pastor. And then there's Tim McGraw as Dallas. He's one of Brad's brothers. And the older brother, Denver, is played by Jon Favreau. And boy, I was shocked because I'm used to the Jon Favreau that was on Chef Show on Netflix and not UFC fighter. Jon Favreau. It really caught me off guard. One thing I really liked about the film is that everyone here looks like they're having fun in this movie. And so that translated to me as I was watching it. I was having fun with it too. And before we go any further, of course, spoilers ahead for a 17-year-old movie. The opening scene, the cold open, is fun. Kate and Brad are doing a role play encounter at a bar. It was funny. Brad trying to pick up on Kate, Kate just shooting him down completely. And then he gets all aggressive in the bar, and that, instantly makes her attracted to him, and they end up kissing. And the next cut scene is they're together in one of the bathrooms. I don't know if they quite have sex in the bathroom or if it's just a heavy makeout session. I think it's left up to you if you want to believe they went all the way. It was really funny, and it reminded me a little of when Saul and Kim on Better Call Saul would pretend to be other people and scam um, strangers who were jerks at their local bar. The whole thing was very entertaining for me for a number of reasons. One thing I noticed in some of the critics' reviews I came across was Reese Witherspoon got a lot of flack. Critics just felt like she was out of place in this kind of movie, that this brand of physical comedy just didn't suit her that well. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. She's fine. I liked her character for the most part. I don't like the writing for her character toward the very end of the movie, and we'll talk about that later. But Reese Witherspoon is fine in the role. I think they did a good job overall of making her a multi-dimensional character. She's not just in the film for Vince Vaughn to bounce jokes off of, right? To be Vince Vaughn's straight person. I think that, her character's backstory is funny. Her childhood traumas are entertaining, but still relatable. And I love the dynamic she has with her family. And there's an actual depth, I feel, to her character. So, as you would expect, there are shenanigans at almost every one of these 4 Christmas celebrations they end up attending. And first up on the list is Brad's father's house. The first encounter is with Brad's father, Howard, played by Robert Duvall, and his 2 brothers, Denver and Dallas. And it's fun because, of course, Vince Vaughn's character, Brad, is this very successful attorney, and he's obviously well educated, well spoken. But his brothers are these hooligans, and they're UFC wannabes. They're not professional cage fighters, but they sure feel like they are, right? They think they are. And as soon as Brad and Kate show up, the brothers start physically assaulting him, just throwing Brad into all sorts of wrestling holds. And yeah, I get why Brad hasn't been home in years. His brothers are assholes. Brad does not fit in. I briefly wondered if he was adopted, as his dad and brothers bear no resemblance to him in demeanor or temperament. And here's the first surprise of the movie, right? Brad's real name is Orlando, and he changed it to distance himself from his family as much as he could, from the shit show that is his dad's side of the family, which of course shocks Kate, right? The man she's been with for 3 years has a completely different name she's never known about. So it's established that Kate and Brad don't want kids, and Brad's brothers both have kids. Now, Denver's wife, Susan, is pregnant currently, plus she has an infant that she's carrying around with her everywhere in the house. And I this is so funny. Um, this might be the funniest scene in the movie as far as we are concerned. Denver has Brad pinned to the ground, and Dallas tags his nephews in to further pummel Brad. And one of the nephews, oh my God, I'm gonna have to look this up and put the scene in there. Says something to the effect of "Google me, bitch," and Vince Vaughn's like, "What?"
Google me, bitch! What? Google me! You might want to look me up sometime, Barbara! No!
You might want to look me up sometime, Barbara. That was great. We almost hurt ourselves laughing at that one. And then a little later, there's another scene where Susan and Kate are in the kitchen talking, and Susan has shoved her infant into Kate's arms so that she can cook. And Kate's holding the baby, and it's not happy. It finally calms down, and she's getting used to holding the baby. But then there's a disturbance in the living room that startles everybody, and Kate just ends up turning very quickly. And when she does that, she just whacks the baby's head right into the door. That's a solid thump. I laughed harder than I probably should have at that, but it caught me off guard, and I couldn't stop laughing. Howard, Brad's father, is just an asshole. I mean, Robert Duvall is a great actor and very interesting to watch normally, but he's not given much to work with. Here, the character is just a miserable son of a bitch who neglected Brad's mom and then was so very surprised when she left him. I think he's just kind of a miserable human being, and I understand completely why Brad would want to get far, far away from him and distance himself from anything to do with him. Next up is going to be at Kate's mom's house. And the joke is that it's a house full of ladies, and they're all kind of cougar-y, and they all start immediately checking out Brad because he's tall and handsome. And that's pretty funny. And so they go meet Kate's mom and the several generations of women that are there from the family. And of course, they do the whole, "Hi, let's show you embarrassing pictures of Kate while she's out of the room." Because for a while she's in the bathroom cleaning herself up after her sister's baby upchucks on her. And this is where we get another big surprise when they tell Brad that she was really heavy as a child and might have had a bit of a lesbian phase while growing up. So that kind of shocks Brad, and so it's funny, that they both keep learning stuff about each other throughout this trip that they probably should have already learned about each other, having been together for 3 years. So we've had a couple of surprises so far in the movie, but this is where the movie, where its first major complication gets thrown in, because while Kate's cleaning herself up in the bathroom, she finds a pregnancy test and decides, why not? Let's take it. And then you don't get to see what the result was, but she definitely has a contemplative look on her face after taking it. So just keep that in the back of your mind for later on. Now, this segment doesn't really have a standout moment for us like the previous one did, but this segment is the best argument against having kids in the whole movie, and that's kind of saying something. One of Kate's nieces steals the pregnancy test from her and then runs out with it into the backyard where they have a bouncy castle, and uh, won't give it back, of course, ends up playing keep away with the other children with the pregnancy test. This is particularly traumatic for Kate because she had a bad experience when she was a kid that also involved an inflatable bouncy house. And so that whole scene is very traumatic for her, but kind of funny. And she does get revenge on the little brat who stole the test. But yeah, God, yuck. Children, no, thanks. There is another segment in this section that's pretty funny where they go to Marilyn's church, and it ends up with Kate and Brad getting pulled into doing parts in the nativity play. But I'll just leave that for you just to discover on your own. It's good though. So 2 down, 2 more to go. They're now going to go visit Brad's mom, who's played by Sissy Spacek. This section is also pretty good. At first, you really just think that Brad's issue here is that his mom has a much younger boyfriend, but it's not the age gap really that makes him uncomfortable, as it's revealed that Daryl, his mom's boyfriend, was his childhood best friend.
I'm just hoping for a chance to be your friend. You were my friend, Daryl. You were my best friend. We grew up together. We rode bikes together. We used to smell each other's hands. But now you're sleeping with my mom, and it's a little bit weird for me. Can you appreciate that?
A part in this segment that we both really enjoyed was the game of Taboo with his mom, Daryl, Denver, and Susan, who have come over from Brad's father's place to visit their mom. Trina and I love Taboo. We don't play it as a team very often because seriously, we feel like it's very unfair to everybody else because of how well we know each other. And we feel seen because of Denver and Susan's performance at Taboo in this movie. It feels just like something we would do.
Next to your bed on the nightstand.
The song?
Yes. I helped you come up with this when you were drunk and you came home from the bar last Thursday.
Alibi.
Yes. All right. The thing I'm not allowed to wear to Supercross.
Miniskirt?
Yes. Me and you dry humping on the beach.
The screensaver?
Yes, baby. This game is so easy. The only man that I'm allowed to cheat on you with.
John Grisham.
Yes. Mexican dude.
Ricardo Montalban.
Yes. Fine.
Right here. Right here!
Now, of course, this exposes how little Brad actually knows about Kate after all this time, right? And that kind of leads to them having an argument in the car on the way to visit her father. And this is where the movie started to really fall apart for me. This is where she tells him that she took a pregnancy test at her mom's place. And keep in mind, she hasn't even told him she's late for her period. She's doing this now on the car ride to see her dad for Christmas. She does tell Vince or Brad that she's not pregnant, but this is where she chooses to drop on him that she's been feeling that maybe she wants to have kids after years of them saying they didn't want kids. So this comes out of nowhere, right, for him during a car trip. I feel like this was not great writing for her to have this 180 out of the blue, for her to expect him to like immediately be on board, to not be shook by this revelation, and that he should be able to just process all of this immediately. It just feels unrealistic. I don't feel like this scene was handled well. It wasn't written well. So they arrive at her father's house, and she ends up going in by herself because she's ready to just shit can the entire 3-year relationship without any further conversation. And she doesn't want to go in to her father's place together, pretending to be something they're not since they're no longer on the same page. So Brad drives back to his dad's house, and she goes in by herself to her father's house. And her and her dad end up having a conversation about it, and he's basically very upfront with her, saying it's better to not be dishonest about your feelings in a relationship because that's what he did while he was together with her mom, and they ended up getting divorced. And it's kind of mentioned that he's gotten divorced a couple of other times since then. And it's only been through a lot of painful experiences that he's now able to be friends with Kate's mom and be there for the grandkids. I like this scene. It's a touching moment, and of all the relatives, Kate's father seems the least like a caricature. Then again, John Voight in real life has seriously messed up his relationship with his daughter Angelina Jolie, so it was probably pretty easy to produce the requisite emotional gravitas for this scene. Meanwhile, Brad goes back to his dad's place, and that's when he tells his father what happened between him and Kate, and his dad is actually happy about it. Again, his dad is just a miserable son of a bitch, and he is really happy that his son is choosing to be a miserable son of a bitch too. I really don't like Robert Duvall's character in this. And then cut to a scene where Brad goes into his childhood bedroom that has a lot of his stuff in it still, and that was weird. I don't know. It feels like the father would have packed away all of that by now. Law school is not it's not quick to get through, so he's been gone a long time. But anyway, it makes him all sentimental, and he drives back to Kate's dad's place and says that he's changed his mind. And this is another place where I feel the writing just really fell down. Is she immediately says okay and is ready to take him back. And a couple hours earlier she was ready to be done with the whole thing, and now she's ready to take him back because he has agreed to being open to having kids and getting married. And you know it all feels rushed. It feels false, and it feels very rushed. And then it gets even worse because there's a scene where they're both saying, this doesn't mean that we have to get married right away. We don't have to have kids right away. And then there's a time skip. A year's gone by, and she's in the hospital and she's had a baby. They mention that they're not going to tell their families about the baby right away. And of course, something has to go wrong. And it's the fact that their baby is the first baby of the new year. And there's a reporter outside in the hall who's getting ready to go, congratulate the parents of the first newborn of the year. And so there's Brad and Kate on TV with their new baby, and of course that means that all their families see them on TV, and then that's the end of the movie. So I mean, yeah, overall, it was a good movie. I would rate it a solid B. It was entertaining. There aren't really any high stakes in there. Attention never got unbearable at any given point, which is something I hate. The cringe factor was actually fairly minimal. It was just a nice 90-minute escape from reality. I feel there is a lost opportunity here, a chance to make a funny but also thoughtful movie that presented the idea that it's okay to not want to get married. It's okay to not want to have children, that you can still be a complete, fulfilled, happy person in life without either of those things happening for you. But if you do happen to watch it, let me know what your opinion is on the movie. How do you feel about the characters, the situations? If you watched it back when it first came out in 2008 and you've rewatched it since then, I'd be interested to hear from you in the comments because that's not my experience. I never saw this originally when it came out. So I would love to know if anything's changed for you in between those two viewings. But that's it. Thank you so much for stopping by as always. And until next time, I'm Ken. You take care.